A very warm welcome to my channel, KetoMealsAndRecipes.com. Today I'm delighted to show you how easy it is to make my keto waffles, also called sweet Lupin waffles. And as with all of my recipes, these are sugar-free and gluten-free. For those on a low-carb or a keto diet, I'm sure you will be pleasantly surprised how close these waffles taste to the original wheat-based waffles. And the other thing that's really great about this recipe is this is a very quick and easy recipe to make and makes 2 batches of nicely crisp waffles. I consider 1 full wheel 1 serving, by the way. In order to support me, please watch the entire video. And by watching the entire video, you can see how each step should look as you're making your waffles. And the other reason you should watch the video is because I always provide tips or nutritional information or hints to better succeed with each step that I go through. One last thing I'd like to address before starting. If you have not used Lupin flour before, please watch to the end. In the end section, I have copied and pasted the information I provided in a previous video about Lupin flour, because with Lupin flour, some people may be predisposed to have an allergic reaction to it, and I also provide all the good nutritional information in my keto blueberry muffin recipe. Or if you want more recipe ideas with Lupin, try my keto hot dog buns and rolls recipe, which makes an amazing bread. For your convenience, I have time-stamped this inserted section, so if you want to just watch that, please go to the timestamp in the description below, and then you can watch that section alone. If you would like more Lupin flour recipes, please do let me know. And if you can, give me actual recipes that you would like converted. With your suggestions, I can address your needs and requests better. The macronutrient ratio for these Lupin flour waffles is 3.7 to 1, with 4.8 grams of total carbs, 2.3 grams of soluble fiber, 0.9 grams of insoluble fiber, resulting in 1.6 grams of net carbs per serving. It's 1 complete wheel, which I've already stated is exactly half of the total recipe. So this is a good size serving and not just a snack. Before starting to make your waffles, the first thing you should do is preheat the waffle maker according to your manufacturer's directions. And at this point, I'd also like to mention that how fast and how crispy your waffles get with your waffle maker will vary. So the cooking time that I will mention is the one for my 15-year-old waffle maker. It still works, so no need to replace. Now to prepare the batter. Begin by placing a sieve over a mixing bowl. To this sieve, I add all of my dry ingredients: the Lupin flour, the almond flour, my sweetener, which I ground to a confectioner powder, and salt, which I also ground to a fine powder. I always use gluten-free baking powder, and in my baking recipes, I frequently use glucomannan powder, or it's also called konjac root powder, because the glucomannan or konjac root powder acts as a binding agent, which is a replacement for the gluten in wheat flour. And as a result, you get a really nice texture with your finished waffles. After you've added all your dry ingredients, just stir to pass the dry ingredients. This not only combines but aerates everything. After doing that, put your bowl aside for a moment. Next, I'll combine the wet ingredients. In a separate bowl, I add my whisked eggs and add all of the almond milk, or you can substitute with water, and add the room temperature melted butter and vanilla. Whisk very well to combine. You want a very homogeneous, smooth liquid. Pour this mixture into the bowl with the dry ingredients, then stir well to form a velvety, lump-free batter. At this point, the batter should be dense and fluffy, not runny. Now let your batter rest for about 5 to 10 minutes so that the almond and Lupin flour can absorb all the liquid. And just before making the waffles, you should also make sure that you grease both the bottom and the top of your waffle maker, and be very generous with either the butter or coconut oil. Having done that, it's now time to pour the batter onto my waffle maker. I ladle about half of the batter onto my waffle maker, and I'm going to make my first of 2 waffles. Because this batter is a bit thicker, use a spatula to gently spread it out to the edges. This will make a much nicer looking and more even textured waffle. As I explained earlier, the exact timing for how long it will take your waffle maker to make your waffles to the nice crispy stage will vary according to your machine. It took mine about 6-7 minutes, and you need this extra time so that the tops are nice and crispy. However, if you find that your waffle maker is not getting your waffles nice and crispy, there is a very easy solution, which I will explain in a moment. Before making your second waffle, re-lubricate your waffle maker with butter or coconut oil, and then let it reheat. It's really important that you reheat your waffle maker to its maximum. Now to address the dilemma that some people face. If your waffles seem to not be crispy and seem a little bit floppy or soft, the solution is very easy. Take a dry, non-stick frying pan or crepe pan, heat it on medium-low heat, but do not grease it with anything. When the pan is hot, place your waffle in the center, but don't put a lid on it. You want to dry fry for about 1 minute on each side. I assure you this will crisp up your waffle, and you'll have a very tasty exterior while still the nice soft center like waffles should have. So I hope my little hint will help you. And now my waffles are done, and this is how I like to serve them. As I hinted in my previous video, the sugar-free sunflower seed Nutella or Suntella copycat, I find that the Lupin flour pancakes are absolutely amazing with the sunflower chocolate spread, or if you prefer, my keto Nutella spread. Or alternatively, what you can do is just put a knob of butter on and maybe sprinkle a little bit of your confectioner powder sweetener. These waffles have such a great taste. I've taste tested this recipe with a whole bunch of people and someone who's a diehard carbivore, and even that person told me that they absolutely love it and would make it for themselves in place of the carb-heavy classic waffles with flour. These waffles are so good when they're freshly made and you've just topped them with your favorite garnish. But if you're one of those people like I am, and I like to make prep ahead so that I have things on hand when I don't feel like cooking, so I doubled the batch and make 2 extra waffles, which I freeze. And how I do that is I put them in a container separated by parchment paper. This way I can choose to have one at a time without them sticking together. And if you put them in a good airtight container or a freezer zippy bag, they will keep well in your freezer for a couple or more months. Now here's the important information that you need to know before using Lupin flour, just in case you or someone you know has peanut or other food allergies. Although some of you may not be familiar with Lupin, I think you'll hear a lot more about it because it's the new go-to gluten-free flour. And it's especially popular with those who don't like coconut flour. But something that is very important that you should know, and many people don't realize, is that Lupin flour does have an allergy warning. And it's really important that you're aware of this before using it. First, you should know that Lupin flour is a type of legume. It is believed that a lupin allergy can result because of a certain degree of cross-reactivity between lupin and peanuts. And it has been discovered that individuals with a peanut allergy may have a higher risk of experiencing allergic reactions to lupin. And this is the cautionary information I felt you needed to know. And in my family, I have someone who is allergic to peanuts, and therefore I have to be careful that I don't cook with lupin when they're around. Now for some benefits of lupin. Lupin flour is made from a legume called the sweet lupin bean. One of the reasons that this flour is becoming so popular is because it's very low in carbohydrates, high in protein, and very rich in fiber. And that's really good for keto, low-carb diets and those who need a gluten-free diet. In fact, most of the carbohydrates in Lupin flour come from the fiber, and the flour contains almost no starch. In fact, Lupin flour is about 40% protein by weight and 30% dietary fiber. I also want you to know that lupin does have a strong taste, so it's best to combine Lupin flour with other types of flours, like I do in this recipe where I combined it with almond flour to make these blueberry muffins. These 2 flavors in the ratio I've provided act really well together. Alternatively, you can combine Lupin flour with some other flour substitutes like whole psyllium husk, coconut flour, and others. And it's really important in low carb and keto baking that you do combine it if you want a really nice taste. I have used lupin flour in quite a number of my recipes, for example in my peanut butter bread recipe, and I would recommend that you watch that video because in that video at the end I provide a lot more information as well as links to some of the research articles I used to gather my information. Now we're all done. Thank you very much for watching this video, and I hope the information about lupin flour has been useful to you. For your convenience, I've added some end links for other breakfast recipes you might enjoy, so click on them and check them out. If you have found this recipe and information useful, please give it a thumbs up, leave a comment or a question, and forward the link to someone that you know that might also enjoy this recipe. Word of mouth is the best way you can help me grow. And anyone who's new to my channel, I'm honored that you have stopped by and watched this video. For those of you who have survived all the way to the end, thank you for watching my video. I hope you come back and check out my next video when it's posted. Have a wonderful day. Cheers!